Anneliese Michel's mysterious case. This video contains an actual recording of part of an exorcism session. If you're afraid, it's not recommended to watch the episode, or you can skip this part of the story. Today's story is about a German girl called Anna Elizabeth or Anneliese Michel. The story of Anneliese Michel is one of the most controversial stories for and against anything related to the paranormal world. Was Anneliese Michel suffering from a mental illness, or was she suffering from a demonic possession? Let's listen to the story together and maybe we can find an answer to this question. Anna Elizabeth Michel was born on the 21st of September 1952 in Leiblifing, Bavaria, West Germany, to a Roman Catholic family. She had a religious upbringing in a family of 6 members, a father, mother, and 4 daughters. Anneliese attended Catholic masses twice a week and her life was going well. But when she became 16 years old, she developed a severe seizure diagnosed as temporal lobe epilepsy, a condition characterized by mood swings, hallucinations, and loss of consciousness. Over the next few years, Anneliese suffered more seizures, but her brain scans did not show any serious symptoms. Shortly thereafter, she was diagnosed with depression and treated in a psychiatric hospital. During the sessions with the psychiatrist, Anneliese said that her body was haunted by malicious spirits, asking her to do things she didn't want to do. And when the psychiatrist heard this, he told her that they were hallucinations and not real. The psychiatrist was unable to help Anneliese or believe her, which made her lose faith in him. In June 1970, Michel had a 3rd seizure in the psychiatric hospital where she was staying. She was prescribed anticonvulsant drugs for the first time, including Dilantin, which did not alleviate the seizure. She then started describing demonic faces that she had seen at different times of the day. In the same month, she was prescribed Obut, a chloropromazine-like drug used to treat various types of psychosis, including schizophrenia, behavioral disorder, and delusions. By 1973, she began to suffer from depression, hallucinating during prayers and complaining of hearing voices telling her that she was cursed and would rot in hell. Michel's treatment in a psychiatric hospital did not improve her health, and her depression worsened. Long-term therapy didn't help, and her frustration with medical care grew after taking pharmaceutical drugs for 5 years. When she turned 20, she became intolerant of religious objects and symbols and started hearing voices. Her condition worsened. Despite taking medication, she became suicidal and developed other symptoms for which she also took medication. After 5 years where psychiatric medication failed to improve her symptoms, Michel and her family became convinced that she was possessed by a demon. As a result, her family appealed to the Catholic Church for an exorcism. Anneliese's family applied twice to the church for an exorcism, but the request was rejected because Anneliese did not fulfill the conditions required to undergo an exorcism session, which included but are not limited to the aversion to religious symbols, speaking an ancient or unfamiliar language, hating or abusing your family, or having supernatural powers that a normal person could not have. At the time of application, Anneliese did not experience any of these symptoms, and hence the application was rejected. Anneliese's condition began to worsen more and more until she finally developed these symptoms. Anneliese started hearing knocking on the door and footsteps, and her sisters also heard the same. Anneliese began to hear evil voices, and over time she became evil herself. Her parents reportedly found her staring at a statue of Virgin Mary for hours, and her eyes were dark and black. Her parents also reported that Anneliese seemed to have super strength, throwing her sister across the room like a rag doll. She refused to eat, saying the demons would not let her to. She would collapse to her knees and then quickly get up, but she would repeat the movement hundreds of times a day, breaking her knees. In her moments of clarity, Anneliese would tell anyone who would listen that she was ready to die to atone for the wayward youth of that age and the apostate priests of the modern church. Anneliese Michel visited San Damiano with a family friend who regularly organized Christian pilgrimages. Her companion concluded that she was suffering from demonic possession because she was unable to walk by the cross and refused to drink from the sacred spring or the holy well. Father Ernest Alt said, Anneliese told me, and Frau Hein confirmed the same, that she was unable to enter the shrine. She approached it with the greatest hesitation, then said that the soil burnt her feet like fire and she simply could not stand it. She then walked around the shrine in a wide arc and tried to approach it from the back. She looked at the people who were kneeling in the area surrounding the little garden, and it seemed to her that while praying, they were gnashing their teeth. She got as far as the edge of the little garden, then she had to turn back. Coming from the front side again, she had to avert her glance from the picture of Christ. She made it several times to the garden but could not get past it. He also noted that she could no longer look at medals or pictures of saints. They sparkled so immensely that she could not stand it. Anneliese started cursing and swearing at her family, beating and biting them, and when she tried to stand up, an unseen force would push her back down to the ground. She stopped eating and started breaking everything she saw in front of her, even religious symbols. She was also cutting off her clothes and sleeping on the floor. She started eating insects, drinking her own urine, and screaming for hours endlessly for no reason. In some cases, Anneliese would bite herself so viciously that parts of her flesh would come out in her mouth. After her case deteriorated that much, the church finally agreed to subject her to exorcisms, and for 2 years she had 2 sessions every week. Father Ernest declared that Michel didn't look like an epileptic, and that he did not observe her experiencing seizures. Alt believed that she was suffering from demonic possession and urged the local bishop to allow an exorcism. In a letter to Alt in 1975, Michel wrote, "I'm nothing. Everything about me is vanity. What should I do? I have to improve. You pray for me." And also once told him, "I want to suffer for other people, but this is so cruel." In September 1975, Bishop Joseph Stangl granted Father Arnold Rains permission to perform an exorcism according to the Ritual Romanum, but ordered total secrecy. Rains conducted the first session on the 24th of September, a total of 67 exorcisms, 1 or 2 per week for up to 4 hours per session. The sessions were performed over a period of approximately 10 months between 1975 and 1976. Although Anneliese was somehow relieved by these sessions, she was never fully cured, sometimes suffering from seizures and loss of consciousness. According to tape recordings of these sessions and Anneliese's own words, her body was haunted by 6 spirits who identified themselves as the most bloody and criminal figures of all time: Lucifer, Cain, Judas Iscariot, Adolf Hitler, Nero, and others. According to many religious beliefs, Lucifer is the chief demon who defied God and promised to seduce humans to commit all types of sins on earth. Cain is the son of the first man created, the prophet Adam, peace may be upon him. Cain killed his brother Abel out of jealousy. Judas Iscariot, according to the canonical Gospels, is the disciple who betrayed Jesus and handed him over to the Jews for 30 pieces of silver, after which he repented and returned the money to the Jews. He later killed himself after Jesus' resurrection from death. The apostle chose Matthias instead of Judas to be among the 12. Hitler is the leader of Nazi Germany, and Nero is the emperor who burned Rome. The sessions were recorded, and Anneliese was clearly making very ugly noises. We will now show part of these sessions and would like to emphasize again that you can skip this part of the video.
Nein, je kletsen. En maar meer kletsen. Oh, so down en Milane, do. Ich gerne, do.
Sind wir schon 3?
Wie. Was soll er schneiden?
Als Kind Gottes.
Ich hab ein Maul erschlagen.
At times during the sessions, Anneliese Michel would get out of control. That 3 strong men would tie her up with iron chains, even though she weighed only 40 kilograms at the time. And she was also said to have the ability, when possessed by the spirits, to crush a ripe apple with one fist. Michel began treatment with Tegretol, an anticonvulsant and mood stabilizer. She was prescribed antipsychotic medications during religious rituals and took them frequently until just before her death. Despite taking these antipsychotic medications, her condition did not improve at all, and she refused to eat, stating that the demons were preventing her from eating. Annelise's last session was in 1976. She was so weak and frail that her lungs were damaged. I beg for forgiveness, she said in her last days. I beg for forgiveness. Before she died, she said to her mother, Mom, I'm scared. On the 1st of July 1976, Michel died at her home. The autopsy report stated that the cause of death was malnutrition and dehydration resulting from nearly a year of near starvation during an exorcism, where she weighed 30 kilograms or 66 pounds. She had fractured knees from constant swaying and was unable to move unassisted. It was said that she to have contracted pneumonia. After Anneliese Michel's death, her father, mother, and the priests responsible for the exorcisms were arrested and charged with gross negligence resulting in death. The police said that the main cause of death was a complete refusal to eat, and that if she had been forced to eat a week before her death, she could have been saved. Anneliese's sister said that Anneliese hated the hospital as they forced her to take food and medication. During the court hearings, exorcism recordings were shown, and they showed very strange things. For instance, there was the sound of 2 malignant spirits inside Anneliese arguing and fighting over who should get out and who should stay, and the voices were masculine. When Anneliese's psychiatrist was called, he admitted that her life could have been saved a week before her death if she had been hospitalized. The police charged Michel's parents and priest Ernest Alt and Arnold Rains with negligent homicide. The parents were defended by lawyer Eric Schmidt-Lichner, and the church paid the lawyers' fees for the defense of the pastors. The trial began on the 30th of March 1978 at the district court. Doctors testified that Michel was not possessed, suggesting that the manifestations of demonic possessions were a psychological effect of her strict religious upbringing as well as her epilepsy. Schmidt-Lichner argued that the exorcism was legal and that the German constitution protects citizens in exercising their religious beliefs without restriction. The defense showed tapes of recorded exorcism sessions, sometimes showing what were said to be demons arguing to substantiate their claim that Michel was possessed. The priests claimed that the demons identified themselves as Lucifer, Cain, Judas Iscariot, Adolf Hitler, Nero, and others. They also stated that Michel was finally freed from the demonic possession resulting from an exorcism just before her death. The state recommended that none of the parties involved be imprisoned. Instead, they recommended punishment for the priests by just giving them a fine, while the prosecution concluded that the parents should be exempted from punishment because they had suffered enough. This is a mitigating factor in the German Penal Code. In April 1978, the Michels and the two priests were convicted of negligent homicide and given suspended prison sentences that were modified by a 3-year probation in order to share the costs of the legal proceedings. In an article written by Jeffrey Chow titled "Mental Illness or Satanic Possession," he says, "For me, this is one of those cases that ignites a conflict between religion and science. On one hand, it's hard to say that demons and witchcraft caused Michel's death, but on the other hand, and I'm not a mental health expert, I don't know of any disease or series of diseases that would cause someone to cry out from the cross." The Catholic Church was forced due to the court judgment to declare that Anneliese was not possessed but mentally ill. Anneliese Michel's grave became a shrine, and several films were made about her life story, most famously The Exorcism of Emily Rose in 2005. Several films have been based on her story, including the 2006 film Requiem and the 2011 film Anneliese, The Exorcist Tapes. After the trial, Michel's family asked the authorities for permission to exhume their daughter's remains because she had been hastily buried in a cheap coffin. Almost 2 years after the burial, on the 25th of February 1978, her remains were placed in a new tin-lined oak coffin. Michel's grave remains a pilgrimage shrine where she is venerated by small groups of Catholics who believe she atoned for errant priests and sinful youth. Michel's father, Joseph Michel, died in 1999. In an interview with her mother, Anneliese Michel, in 2006, she stated that she did not regret her actions, saying, "I know we did the right thing because I saw the sign of Christ in her hands." On the 6th of June 2013, a fire broke out in the house where Michel was living, although the local police determined that it was an arson attack. Some locals attributed the fire to an exorcism. If you're more interested about Anneliese's case and want a more detailed and clear analysis, I recommend you to buy this book, Anneliese Michel, A True Story of a Case of Demonic Possession, Germany, 1976, by Laurence Leblanc, a highly acclaimed book that provides greater detail and documented evidence. We have reached the end of our story for today, and until we meet again, stay safe. Bye bye.